My name is Claire. I always loved birthdays, not just for the cake or the gifts, but because it was one of the few days in the year when I felt like I was allowed to be special, like I mattered. This year, I turned 25. A milestone, right? A quarter of a century. I'd planned it for weeks. A small gathering at my apartment, nothing too big. Just close friends, cozy decorations, my favorite playlist humming in the background, and a surprise video call from my boyfriend who was overseas for work. It was supposed to be perfect. The day started great. I woke up to a sweet voice message from James, my boyfriend, singing a terrible but adorable version of Happy Birthday. My best friend Mia brought over fresh coffee and muffins. We decorated the apartment together, giggling as we hung little fairy lights across the window frame. Everything felt warm, calm, full of love. Around 5 p.m., people started arriving. Laughter filled the apartment. We played games, shared funny stories, and someone even brought a Polaroid camera to capture silly moments. It felt like a scene out of a feel-good movie. But deep down, I was nervous. There was a reason. Because at the very last minute, against my better judgment, I had invited my parents. To be clear, my relationship with them was complicated. My mom could be warm and generous one moment, then cold and critical the next. My dad? Mostly silent, but when he spoke, it was usually to correct or shame someone. I had moved out at 19 because I couldn't breathe in that house anymore. Still, over the years, I tried to patch things up, occasional dinners, short calls, trying to find middle ground. And this birthday, I thought maybe, just maybe, they could come and behave like normal, supportive parents. Spoiler alert, they didn't. They arrived late, almost 7 p.m. Everyone else had already settled in, drinks in hand, laughter bouncing off the walls. When I opened the door, my mother didn't even say hello. Her eyes scanned the room like a disapproving school principal. These lights, they look cheap, she muttered under her breath. My dad followed, holding a stiff bouquet of flowers that looked like it had been bought in a rush at the gas station. He handed it to me without eye contact. Thanks, I said, trying to keep my voice upbeat. I'm glad you could make it. They didn't respond. The moment they walked in, the energy changed. Conversations quieted. People glanced at each other, unsure. I tried to keep the mood going, introduced them to Mia, offered drinks, tried to loop them into the fun. But my mom immediately started asking invasive questions. Who's that girl? She looks like she's had work done. You're still friends with her? Didn't she get arrested once? And when I mentioned James, my boyfriend, she rolled her eyes. Still dating that man who left the country? What a catch. I felt my cheeks burn. Mia squeezed my hand under the table. At one point, my mom cornered me in the kitchen. Are you proud of this, Claire? She asked, gesturing toward the decorations. This. Apartment life? Playing pretend with your little friends? You're 25, not 15. When are you going to grow up? I stood there, frozen. I was too shocked to respond. And then it happened. In the middle of the room, as we were about to light the candles on the cake, she announced, loudly, that she and my dad were getting divorced. You know those moments when everything freezes? Like in movies when someone drops a glass and the sound echoes unnaturally loud, time slows down, and you can almost hear your heart thudding in your ears? That's exactly what it felt like. My mom's words had sliced through the air like a razor. We're getting divorced. At first, I thought I'd misheard. I blinked, hoping maybe I imagined it. But no. She stood there next to my silent father, arms crossed, expression unreadable. My friend stared, forks midair, jaws halfway open. You could have heard a pin drop. I looked at her. What? What did you just say? My mom shrugged, like it was no big deal. Well, I figured we might as well get it out there. Since everyone's here, your father and I are splitting. It's been coming for a long time. This seemed like the right time. I was speechless. The right time? My birthday? Dad still hadn't said a word. He looked down at his shoes, like they were the most interesting things in the world. No apology. No explanation. Nothing. Mia stepped forward, trying to save the moment. Maybe we can light the candles now. she said gently, offering an awkward smile. But it was too late. The atmosphere had already shifted into something heavy, uncomfortable, awkward beyond repair. I turned to my mom, my voice shaking. Why would you say that here?
Now?
In front of everyone? She looked genuinely confused. Well, it's not like we ruined a wedding or anything. It's just a birthday, sweetheart. People will get over it. Just a birthday. Something inside me cracked. I had spent weeks trying to make this one day special. One day where I wasn't worrying about family dysfunction or walking on eggshells. And she bulldozed right through it, like it meant nothing. One of my friends quietly gathered her things and whispered goodbye. Then another. And another. Within 10 minutes, more than half the guests had left. The room that had been filled with music and laughter now echoed with silence and tension. I stood in the kitchen, staring blankly at the untouched cake, the flickering candles that had never been lit. My dad finally spoke. We didn't mean to upset you. I turned to him, stunned. Then why come at all? Why not wait until literally any other day? He didn't answer. He never did when it mattered most.
My mom rolled her eyes again.
Oh, don't be so dramatic. You always take things so personally. You invited us, remember? Maybe next time, don't expect people to behave like characters in your little fantasy party. I felt something rise in me, rage, hurt, years of being dismissed, minimized, emotionally stepped on. I had tried so hard to forgive, to give him space in my life. But this was the final straw. Mia stood beside me, quiet but firm. You need to leave, she said to them, her voice shaking.
Now.
My mom looked at her like she was dirt under her shoe. Excuse me? I said get out, I echoed.
Please.
Just go. They hesitated for a moment, but I think they knew they'd crossed a line. My dad turned and headed for the door. My mom followed, muttering something about how ungrateful I was. And then the door shut. I stood in the quiet. The fairy lights still blinked gently on the walls. The smell of the vanilla cake lingered in the air, but the night felt ruined. Mia came up behind me and wrapped her arms around me tightly. I finally let the tears fall. The apartment was quiet after they left. Not peaceful quiet, more like the eerie silence after a storm. You know it's over, but the damage is still there, staring you in the face. The popped balloons, the tipped-over cups, the untouched cake that had started to look almost tragic under the dim lights. I sat on the edge of the couch, clutching a throw pillow like it was a life raft. Mia moved around silently, picking up plates, refilling the water pitcher, cleaning without saying much. She always knew when I needed space. Eventually, she sat beside me and handed me a glass of water. Drink something, she said gently. You're shaking. I hadn't even realized it. My hands were trembling, and my heart felt like it had been shoved through a meat grinder. I started, then stopped. What was I even trying to say? She waited. I just wanted a nice night. That's all. One night where everything didn't have to be about them. Mia nodded. I know. And for a while, it really was a nice night. Don't forget that. But it's all I'll remember now, I whispered. The way she said it, like she planned it, like she was waiting to drop the news just to see how I'd react. We sat in silence for a while, the kind that wraps around your ribs and squeezes just enough to hurt. I should have never invited them, I finally said. I knew better. I knew better. No, Mia said. You hoped. There's nothing wrong with hoping. But I wasn't so sure anymore. After she left, I wandered the apartment like a ghost. I changed out of my dress, took off my makeup, and stared at myself in the mirror.
25.
And I still felt like that little girl who used to hold her breath whenever her parents started arguing in the next room. As if staying perfectly still might keep everything from falling apart. I had grown up and moved out, but somehow, the chaos still followed me. Still found ways to creep into my happiest moments. Like it didn't want to let me go. I crawled into bed without brushing my teeth or turning off the lamp. My phone buzzed, and for a second I thought, please don't be her. It wasn't. It was a message from my dad. Sorry about tonight. Your mom insisted on coming. I didn't want a scene. That was it. No, happy birthday. No, are you okay? Just a vague apology that barely touched the surface of the emotional wreckage he helped create. I stared at the message for a long time. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, unsure what I even wanted to say. Should I thank him for reaching out? Tell him how much it hurt? Or just say nothing at all? I typed and deleted about 10 different replies. Then finally I wrote, "You let it happen." Again. And hit send. I didn't expect a reply. And I didn't get one. Instead, I rolled over, pulled the blanket over my head, and cried like I hadn't cried in years, not just because of tonight, but because I was starting to realize something bigger, something heavier. I couldn't fix them. And maybe it wasn't my job to try anymore. The next morning, sunlight poured through the blinds like nothing had happened. I hated that. How could the world just
Move on?
How could birds still chirp, people still walk their dogs, cars still honk in the distance, as if my entire reality hadn't imploded just hours earlier? I stared at the untouched birthday cake in the fridge for a long time before finally throwing it away. It felt like a symbolic act, even if a stupid one. Like I was discarding not just the ruined night, but all the expectations I had attached to it. The illusion that maybe my family would finally come through, that they could be normal, that they'd celebrate me the way I deserved. A few hours later, I got a message from my aunt, my mom's sister. "Heard about what happened last night. Your mom's very upset. Call her. She's your mother." I stared at it in disbelief. There was again that quiet, poisonous undertone, that subtle implication that I was the problem, that I needed to fix it, that her feelings somehow outweighed my experience. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my notes app and started writing. Not a message, not a draft of something to send. Just my thoughts. Things I am no longer responsible for. My mother's disappointment, my father's silence, making excuses for people who hurt me, being a peacemaker, sacrificing me joy for someone else's comfort, keeping the family together. When I'm the only one trying, I stared at the list for a long time. Then I read it again, out loud this time. Something about hearing the words gave them more power. They weren't just ideas anymore. They were declarations. Later that evening, Mia called to check in. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I'm weirdly okay," I replied. Like, I feel sad, but also
Clear.
I think I finally see it for what it is. "Yeah," she asked gently. "I've been trying to get approval from people who never learned how to love without control. I've bent backwards for them my whole life, and it's never been enough. I always leave interactions with them feeling smaller than before." There was a pause on the line. "I'm proud of you," Mia said softly. "That's not an easy thing to admit." "Yeah," I whispered. "But I need to stop trying to win a game that's rigged against me." We talked for a while longer, nothing heavy, just catching up. It was the first time in days I laughed without forcing it. After we hung up, I got another message, this time from my mom. "So, I guess you've made your choice.
Fine.
I won't bother you anymore. Just know you're pushing away the only family you have." I stared at that one for a long time, too. There it was again, guilt wrapped in a bow. But this time, something in me didn't flinch. Something stronger had taken root.
I didn't respond.
Instead, I put my phone down, took a long shower, and curled up in bed with a blanket and a book. I wasn't pushing anyone away. I was finally choosing myself. The days after my birthday passed slowly, like walking through thick fog. I wasn't sad anymore, not exactly. Just empty. Like I had stepped out of a burning building only to realize I didn't know what to build in its place. Mia checked in every day, bless her heart. James called more often, even if just for 5 minutes between meetings. He listened as I unraveled everything, how my parents had hijacked my birthday, how I felt manipulated, discarded, small. "You don't deserve that," he said one night over video chat, eyes soft with worry. I wish I'd been there. "I don't think anyone could have stopped it," I admitted. "But I wish you were, too." The hardest part, though, was the silence. My parents didn't call. My aunt didn't follow up. It was like I had hit some invisible tripwire and triggered their collective exile. No more pretending. No more fake smiles or forced brunches. And while a part of me felt lighter, another part wondered, was I really ready to cut them out completely? Then came the message from my cousin Ava. Ava and I had never been particularly close. She was younger, lived out of state, didn't come to family functions much. But she had always been quiet, observant, sensitive in the way that makes you feel seen.
Hey.
I heard what happened. Just wanted to say, I get it. Your mom did something similar at my graduation dinner. I never told anyone.
But. Yeah.
I see you. And I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I stared at her message, stunned. And then another followed. You're not the only one who's been hurt by them. You're just the first one to say enough. That takes guts. That message cracked something open in me. For years, I had believed I was the problem. Too sensitive. Too emotional. Too much. But what if I wasn't? What if I had just been carrying the weight of a dysfunction everyone else was too afraid to name? That night, I opened my laptop and began to write. Not in a journal, not to a friend, but to them. Subject: no more silence, Mom.
Dad.
I'm writing this because I need you to hear me without interrupting, without minimizing, without turning it around on me. You hurt me, not just on my birthday, but over and over, in ways I've tried to forgive, excuse, explain away. I've twisted myself into knots trying to be the version of me you could finally approve of. But I'm done with that now. What happened on my birthday wasn't just a bad moment, it was a breaking point. You took something meaningful and made it about you. Again. And then, instead of taking responsibility, you guilt me for reacting. That's not love. That's control. I'm setting boundaries, not because I hate you, but because I love myself enough to stop letting your behavior define my self-worth. If you're willing to have an honest, respectful conversation about how we move forward, I'm open to that. But only if you're ready to listen without blame. Until then, I'm choosing distance. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing me.
Slayer.
I didn't send it right away, but I did save it. Because whether I sent it or not, I had finally said what needed to be said. Even if just for myself. I sent the email 3 days after writing it. My fingers hovered over the mouse for a long time, rereading every sentence, waiting for doubt to creep in. But it didn't. Not this time. When I clicked send, something strange happened. I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel afraid. I felt
free.
For the first time, I had spoken from the center of my truth, not filtered, not softened, not buried beneath guilt. Just honest.
Raw.
Mine. I didn't expect a reply right away. I didn't even know if I wanted one. But 2 days later, I got it. It was from my mother. If this is the version of you that you think is strong, then I truly don't recognize you anymore. You've changed, and not for the better. We always tried our best. If you can't see that, maybe you need help. No apology. No reflection. Just more gaslighting wrapped in polished sentences. I read the email once. Then I archived it. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just let it go. Because I realized something important in that moment. My healing wasn't for them. It was for me. And their refusal to change didn't mean I was wrong to do so. Later that evening, I met up with Mia at a small cafe. She brought me a cupcake with a single candle in it. I think your birthday deserves a do-over, she smiled. I laughed, really laughed, not the polite kind, but the full-bellied, soul-cleansing kind. After we ate, we sat on a park bench as the sun set behind the trees. It was quiet, peaceful. I looked up at the sky and felt, for the first time in years, like I wasn't carrying a weight on my shoulders that didn't belong to me. James called that night. You sound lighter, he said. I think I am, I told him. I finally stopped begging people to love me the right way, and started loving myself enough to walk away when they don't. He was quiet for a moment, then said, That's one of the bravest things I've ever heard. Maybe my mom was right. Maybe I had changed, but not in the way she meant. I had stopped trying to be the daughter they wanted, and started becoming the woman I needed to be.